Professor, is the universe a Gödel sentence about itself?
So this is something I've definitely struggled with. I think the early universe, the creation of the universe, the idea of setting initial data for the universe, all of that sounds really self-referential. It sounds like the laws of physics are trying to say something about their own genesis. And that ingredient, the self-referential ingredient, is kind of a flag that you might be getting into Gödelian territory. I've never actually formalized this intuition, though I talk about it occasionally, and occasionally I'll talk to somebody plausible who can help me struggle through it. It's always good to have a collaborator. But I haven't written it down yet, in some sense. I haven't written down that Gödelian expression, but it does seem to harken back to those original ideas about there not being a theory of everything.
Okay. Well, we got to shut this interview off right now because that's the channel's name.
All right. You can add a question mark.
Perfect. Now let's think about this, because a Gödel sentence describes its own unprovability. So it's not merely a self-referential sentence.
Right.
Is there something, do you mean to say more like the universe may be a self-referential sentence, or is there something Gödelian about it?
Yeah, I think it's both. So let's just go back to Gödel for people who haven't thought about it for a while. There was famously the liar's paradox, which certainly Gödel would have been aware of, in which the liar says, this is a lie. So if it's a lie, it's true. If it's true, it's a lie. And you have this paradox that exists in language. And I think metaphysicists were sort of lightly, not overly concerned about this, but what Gödel did, which was to bring this to absolutely the next level, was to mathematize the idea. So he moves from this statement is untrue or a lie. He doesn't do that. He actually formulates this statement is unprovable. And he mathematizes that concept. He says essentially that there is a true statement about a proof belonging within an axiomatic system that cannot be proven to be true, which is, of course, the claim of the statement. So the statement is true, but unprovable. And that is not inherently paradoxical or inconsistent. So Gödel says, look, I'm going to preserve my faith in the consistency of this axiomatic system, but I did just show that not all true statements, even in algebra, can be proven to be true. And that's fantastic. Now, if you look back at the time when he was doing this, and the great mathematician Hilbert had made a call to all mathematicians, not to prove all infinite true statements, which is impossible, but to at least render the fairly obvious assumption that all true statements could be provable, to at least ensure that that's the case. And in fact, Gödel comes along and does the opposite. So in some sense, Gödel's work doesn't talk about paradoxes. It's perfectly consistent within mathematics, but it is nonetheless stunning because it suggests that there can be no such thing as a theory of everything for mathematics. You cannot prove some statements simply by marching through the axioms of certain mathematical structures, that there are things, even among the numbers, that we simply will never know, that we can't know, true things that are unknowable. And I think that was a shock to mathematicians, but also it should continue to interest physicists whose, of course, big ambition is to have a theory of everything. So what can I do about the early universe this way? Oh, could it be that the early universe, somehow the consistency of the initial data and the laws of physics are preserved, right? There are relations that are true, but unprovable.
I subscribe to The Economist. Their science and their AI coverage is among the best I've found anywhere. And I say that as someone who reads plenty of it. I'll give you some examples. They just ran an analysis on how attitudes towards science are changing in American politics and what this means for research and funding in scientific institutions moving forward. This sort of high-quality reporting is fantastic. They even covered how dark energy may be weakening over time. Now, if that holds up, it completely changes our understanding of the universe's fate. If you watch this channel, those are exactly the kinds of questions that we explore every week. I subscribe to The Economist because their science and their AI reporting regularly surprises me with how deep it goes. And they're also, of course, known for global affairs, both political and economic reporting. They are top tier, and interestingly and flatteringly, Toe is one of the only podcasts that The Economist partners with. So as a listener, you get an exclusive 35% off. That's not a deal that they have just anywhere. Head to economist.com/TOE to subscribe. That's economist.com/TOE for 35% off. Now, could it be, okay, so two questions here. You can take whichever one you like. Could it be that the laws of physics or the initial conditions are inconsistent, whatever that would mean? Okay, so that's one question. And then my second question is, what would the Gödel sentence, supposing this is true and more than just a flowery analogy, what would the Gödel sentence of the universe's formal system be? Like the sentences in a sentence in a certain language.
So I'd like to think that it will, the laws of physics and the universe itself and the way that the universe is crunching possibly an algorithm, crunching this initial data forever, that is consistent. That is, of course, the paradigm of physics. If that's not consistent, then we've got something really, really bad on our hands. And I think Gödel would have said the same thing about algebra. He said, I'm gonna accept the consistency, but the unprovability, as opposed to saying this is inconsistent. So I think it could be the same thing. Perfectly consistent laws of physics, just ones that we can't, don't allow us to prove certain aspects of the initial conditions. What would the statement be like? Again, I've never really tried. So what Gödel did, which was so amazing, is he invented this code where every symbol, every number, every operation, including a parentheses, got a code, received a numerical code. And so every proof could be mathematized as just a relationship among numbers. Very simple algebraic relationship. So I've never gone to the depths of trying to actually do this, but I mean, now you're kind of inspiring me to, when we get off the phone, not to go to yoga, but instead to try to structure the sentence. But I think if we look at this statement is unprovable, which is the kind of English translation of what Gödel did, it would be something like, these initial conditions cannot be predicted by the laws of physics.
Ah, okay.
I would say that that's kind of close to, that parallels Gödel's structure. It is both self-referential, and it can be true, but would intrinsically therefore be unprovable because you can't get to it through the laws of physics.
So the laws of physics, it's usually thought of as the laws of physics, and then we have initial conditions or boundary conditions or what have you. And they're separate. So if the Gödel...
It's been a long struggle, yeah.
If the Gödel statement is a statement in the laws of like a law itself, then it's not, if it's referring to the boundary conditions, it wouldn't technically be self...
I would say if you're really talking about the creation of the whole universe, you can't play that game. Like, I can get away with it if I'm teetering a ball on the top of a hill. And I say, look, the laws of physics are Newtonian mechanics. And I'm externally to that adding in the initial data. But if I want the system to be the entire universe, I just don't think you can get away with that. And I think we felt the resistance about why initial data is so strange when we want to apply it to the whole universe. That's been a long problem. People have thought about for a long time. Hartle and Hawking, principles for the initial state of the wave function of the universe, like trying to say maybe it's not a choice, maybe there's not a range of initial data, there's only one possibility, and the possibility is set by the laws of physics, right? That seems more holistic to me. I think we have an initial data problem whether we like it or not, if you're going to talk about the entire universe. So that's why I think therein lies, at least, and again with Gödel's, once Gödel proved this statement was unprovable, a whole slew of things followed, like uncomputable numbers with Alan Turing. It was just the tip of the iceberg. Now we know that there's an infinite set of uncomputable numbers, numbers about which we will essentially know nothing, but they're numbers. They have facts about them, but they're not numbers we can write an algorithm to predict. They're not numbers about which we can know its intrinsic properties. It's just simply a list of random digits. And the universe could be like this. The initial data is just kind of could be just the tip of the iceberg.